back to the YouTube channel of Pro Enzo Vid, and this is the second season preview for 2023, and it's obviously goes in alphabetical order. So I had the Broncos yesterday. Now today I'm doing the Canberra Raiders, and the Raiders for me are such a interesting side because you don't know what kind of side they will be coming to this year, because there's so much question marks about consistency, about if they can get their combinations sticking solid for another season. And, you know, can they make the 8 without just having to rely on a team to slip off, which was the Broncos. But, you know, it's going to be a big year for Canberra. I do think they're a real threat to something special. It's just that, you know, there's some question marks about them, I feel like. But Raiders are going to be in for a big season if they can get everything clicking. So we'll see how they go. But, yeah, look, obviously, same as yesterday. Going to start off with, like, my best 1 to 17. Then go through... you know, my biggest sort of weakness for them, or before that, my biggest strength for the Raiders, my biggest weakness after for them, and then after that, going to go through their best and worst signings, going to go through their top 5 games of the year, and going to go through also their best, or not best player, but basically the player who should stand out and has so much to, I guess, do and needs to step up a bit more. So I'll be giving a the player of my opinion who I'll pick. And then the last one's going to be obviously my final prediction for the Raiders in 2023. So without further ado, everyone, sit back and enjoy my 2023 Canberra Raiders season preview. So here is my best 1 to 17 that I personally named for the Raiders, and just my 1 to 17. I'm not going to go off about predictions and stuff like that. It's just that what I would just in general pick for the Raiders as their team, best 1 through 17. So for me, their fullback would be obviously Xavier Savage. The wingers would be, for me, Nick Cotric and Jordan Rapana. The centers are Matt Timoko and Sebastian Chris. The halves, Jack White and Jamal Fogarty. The props are Josh Papali'i and Joe Tarpany. The hooker would be Tom Starling. The back rowers would also be Corey Harawira-Naera and Hudson Young, and lock Elliot Whitehead. And off the bench, I'd have Danny Levi, Sammy Sulo, Corey Horsburgh, and Emre Gula as my bench there. And just in general, that's my best 1 to 17. So look, hard to leave out a couple of players, but that's the good thing because there's depth. That just proves there's depth, and yeah, you know, the Raiders have plenty of that this year, and I think Ricky will utilise that pretty well, I expect. And I could easily put Zach Wolford in there, but I don't know. I have a feeling that Danny Levi will get a lot more games for some reason there, and I'm backing him to be a player in that 1 to 17. So that there would be my Raiders' best team. Now on to the Raiders' strengths for 2023, and look, it's a pretty obvious one in my opinion. It has to be their forward pack. Like, their forward pack is arguably one of the best in the comp. Now, it's hard to say that they'll miss the 8 with this forward pack, so it's a tough decision for everyone or anyone that does pick the Raiders to finish outside the 8 with this forward pack they have. Like, a forward pack of Papali'i, or I'm so used to saying Josh Papali, but look, either way, it's just, I don't know, it's how his name is sort of set out, but it doesn't matter. So, you know, got Papali there, Tarpany, you know, the hooker one would be interesting, who they select there. Harawira-Naera, Whitehead, Young, and even Trey Mooney, who could be a real breakout player too. And then Gula, Horsburgh, a good cover-up, and Sammy Sulo is a good signing for the Raiders as well. So it's a really good forward pack, and it's a forward pack that will definitely lay a good platform for their backs to do something. Like Chris and Timoko, both creative centers, they could definitely play off the back of that. I think this would also support Xavier Savage to gain momentum off the back of the forwards, because he has a very dangerous running game with Savage. So if he can find some good ball, and you know, if the forwards can lay a good platform by playing the ball quickly and getting up and playing with speed, well, it could really bring Savage into the game. So that would be very exciting for Raiders fans, I think, and the club in general. So yeah, look, it's hard to go past their forward pack as that strength for them, but you know, even their halves are pretty good too. Like, I like their halves in White and Fogarty, both solid halves that have proven to do a job before. But yeah, nothing beats the forward pack in my opinion. Now on to the Raiders' weaknesses for 2023. Now this is an interesting one because, again, I don't think they're a club that suffers from too much really. But I guess if I'm to pinpoint it down to just one thing that is a bit of a weakness in my opinion for the Raiders, it has to be probably their centers. Now, I know that Tomoko and Chris have both proven to do some good things on the field, and they are exceptional young centers and stuff. But I guess that when you come up against, some bigger opponents, and you know, I just think if they get tested by guys like Staggs, Olam, you know, guys like Pinasini, even players such as bloody Joseph Manu and also Graham, like all these quality centers up there. If they ever come up against those sort of players, well, I'll be very interested to see how Tomoko and Chris handle versing those sort of bigger names. Because I do think they're still very young and they still haven't proven consistently how they do go every year. So it would be very interesting to see if Chris and Tomoko can live up to playing against some opponents like that. But lucky for Canberra, they don't have too many weaknesses. But I'm just going to say that they're, I guess, sort of question mark with their rookie centers is a bit of a weakness, but it's not a bad weakness. It's like not a terrible weakness that's going to impact them at all. It's just a bit of a question mark sort of thing, I think, with their centre pairing. But there's always Croker there, Jared Croker, who can always come in and fill in, and he's a club legend, so he's always there if one of them do struggle to find form. But other than that, Canberra are pretty sweet. On to the best signing for the club for 2023, and it's really limited to pick from, only because they've signed 2 players only, which were Danny Levi just recently, and they've also signed Sammy Sulo from the Knights. So both former Knights players themselves, actually, except Danny Levi came back from the Super League. So, but out of them two, I'd probably say Sammy Sulo is probably the best signing for them, probably, only because he's not a bad player. I mean, Levi's good as well. Like, Levi, obviously, is more experienced and has shown a bit more than Sulo in the past. And, obviously, he will be good for them. But it's not guaranteed he'll have a spot in the team. Whereas I think for Sulo, he will get a spot, because I think that bench spot with Horsburgh and Emre Gula, he'll probably be one of the other players on the bench there, other forwards. So, yeah, I expect Sulo to be there. But yeah, I think obviously Raiders, this recruitment this year hasn't been the best, but they don't need to recruit too much. In all honesty, they've got the team right there. It's just about recruiting depth, I guess. But Sulo's probably going to be a top grade signing, so I like the addition. He hopefully gets more games at Canberra than he did at Newcastle. So I'm going to say Sammy Sulo is probably their best signing coming into this year. Hopefully gets more games. Onto the club's biggest loss heading to this year. Now, they've lost a couple of players, actually. They've lost Charles Clockster, which is a very big loss, in my opinion. Ryan Sutton, Josh Hodgson, who went to Parramatta, and Sam Williams was another one on top of my head, I remember, that left as well, and Adam Elliott too. So, they've lost a bit, but I don't think that were all losses that would change their side too much. But, look, C&K fell out of favour at Canberra for Savage, so I wouldn't say he's the biggest loss, even though he's done some great things there. Josh Hodgson was getting a bit older, and I think they already had a lot of options at hooker coming up and stuff. I don't know. I'm going to say probably Ryan Sutton is the biggest loss, in my opinion. Like, I know that's a bit unpopular to say, as they have such a great forward pack already and don't really need to be too concerned about a loss like this. But I just think Ryan Sutton's time at Canberra wasn't really used properly, I don't think. He joined there in 2019, I think. I'm pretty sure, or some year. I can't exactly remember, but he's been there for a couple of years now, and I think his time at Canberra hasn't been used properly, in my opinion. Like, I think Ricky didn't utilise him properly, didn't really... well, look, obviously Ricky's good at utilising most talent and stuff, but I don't think he sort of bring up or just played him enough. That's all I'm trying to say. I don't think Sutton got the chance he deserved at Canberra, but obviously his place has fallen out now with guys like Sulo coming to the club, and obviously Horsburgh and Emre Gula most likely to be the bench prop players. But to be fair, I think I have Sutton over both of them, if I'm being honest with you. But yeah, look, I think Ryan Sutton is a big loss, and I think if he goes well Bulldogs and plays starting lock or even off the bench, well, I think he will prove to be someone that Canberra may regret and would have second thoughts about probably using a bit more if they had him still. So I'm going to say him, but it could be someone else. On to the Raiders' top 5 games, in my opinion, for 2023. So sort of skimming over their draw a little bit, I thought that these are 5 games that I liked, in my opinion, for them coming up this year. So, round 5, I think Panthers and Raiders at GIO will be a big game. And by the way, this is not an order. This is just my top 5 games in general that I think will be good to watch for Raiders. So, yeah, I think round 5, Panthers and the Raiders at GIO Stadium will be good because both sides are always competitive against each other. It's a very physical encounter when both Penrith and Canberra play each other. So, and it's in Canberra too, so I think it'll be a good game, that one. And then round 9, they take on the Dolphins at McDonald's Park. Being back at McDonald's Park is obviously a tradition, I think, now for the Raiders, so it'd be good to play a new franchise in the Dolphins there. I believe round 13 is another one that I like, is Rabbitohs and the Raiders at Accor Stadium on a 7:30 Saturday night match. So I think because it's been a while since the Raiders have played at Accor Stadium, so I think that's going to be a good one either way as well, because I think, they're two exciting teams when they're on, so I'm looking forward to that one as well. Then the fourth one I'm going to say that I also saw was round 17 when they take on the Roosters at Allianz Stadium. Now, it must be such a long time since both these sides played each other at Allianz, because I can't remember the last time the Raiders took a game to Allianz, because it must have been like a long time before it got knocked down and rebuilt. So I don't know when the last time they did play at Allianz, but it would have been a long time. And I think the last one for me would have to be probably Melbourne and Raiders at Amy Park again. Like, I think that's round 20 or something like that. And I think that game will be good because, Raiders have the wood over Storm at Melbourne for some reason, which is just crazy to think, because it's not often a side has the wood over the Storm at the one stadium, which is their home ground, so in Melbourne. So it's crazy to think that, but I think that'll be a good game either way as well, because we'll see if Canberra can keep that winning streak going in Melbourne. If they do, that's incredible. So I think they're my top 5 games for the Raiders in 2023. Now, on to the player that has to step up the most, in my opinion, for 2023. Now, it's a tough one because I can identify so many players that I think need to have a big year this year in order to make the Canberra Raiders a successful, consistent team. And I think there's a lot of options to pick from. But if I'm to pick one, I'm going to pick Jamal Fogarty as the halfback. Now, Jamal Fogarty obviously had a decent season last year, despite starting slow with that injury he copped early in the off-season, or during the trial match, actually, against us at Gosford. And, he got an injury, which was his ankle, I'm pretty sure, or something like that. And he missed the length of the season. So he came back around mid-year and sort of killed it for Canberra in some games. But I guess he wasn't always consistent. So I think he's the one that, as the halfback and as, I guess, a leader in that side, I think it's a big year for him as well. And I think I expect him to be dominant as a halfback with Wyden in the halves if they're going to take any sort of success this year, because I think them two can be vital. But I think Fogarty as the halfback will be even bigger because he has to repay. Well, not repay because he can't do too much about injuries and stuff, but I guess the word repay in terms of showing that he is capable of leading the Raiders around for a full season, not having to rely on a club dipping out of the 8 or, I guess, on results. So I think Fogarty will have to have a big season. But same with Josh Papali, I think he needs to have a big season as well, because he sort of went a bit backwards last year. So if he can find some of his 2019 form again, that would be great for Canberra fans, I imagine. So I think he's another one. But, I think the Raiders are pretty well set up for this year, so we'll see how they go. Now, on to my final prediction for the Raiders in 2023. So this is where I think they'll finish in 2023. So, look, it's a tough one because everyone has the Raiders finishing outside their top 8, and everyone thinks they're going to be the club that drops out of the 8. Well, for some reason, I don't know if they're going to finish as low as 10th, I think, anyway. So they can finish as high as 5th or 6th, in my opinion, but can finish as low as 10th. So they're such a tricky side to get a read on, and it's going to be frustrating if they do, I guess, be a bit inconsistent and sort of win some games they shouldn't have won, and win some games, they should, but just lose some that is unexpected and stuff like that. You get what I mean? So it's going to be an interesting year for them, but really, I have them finishing 10th. So if you look at my later prediction, I've had Canberra there as well. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be really interesting for the Raiders because, again, I'm a little bit concerned about their consistency and I guess just about how they gel throughout the season, because it's proven that, even though they have a great sort of team names and stuff, they haven't been able to display that on the footy field. So got to be quite wary of that. But yeah, everyone has the Raiders outside the top 8 and completely rules them out for making the 8 at all. Well, you're crazy, because they're going to definitely be competing hard at the Green Machine, all the Raiders. You know, they're going to be up there. You know, they're definitely going to push for a spot in the 8, even a spot in the top 6. I'm really keen to say that. Top 4 would be an overachievement, but I wouldn't be shocked if they can get this side clicking and going. So it'd be a very big year for the Raiders. But how they go in 2023, well, we'll have to find it by September, when the season ends. But anyways, everyone, that's my 2023 Raiders season preview. Hope you all enjoyed. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and again, thank you for those new subscribers recently. Really do appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, if you're new watching the channel right now. And yeah, comment your thoughts on how you think Raiders will go this season. But everyone, thanks for watching. See you all the very next one.